The great chamber was silent. 12 ancient species sat in their floating seats, arranged in a perfect circle around the speaking platform. Light came from everywhere and nowhere. The walls were made of living crystal that had grown for 10,000 years. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood alone in the center. She was small compared to the aliens around her. Some of them were 3 meters tall. Others had bodies made of light or stone or something that had no name in human language. They looked down at her like adults watching a child try to speak. Elena kept her back straight. She had been a soldier before she became a diplomat. She knew how to stand in front of enemies. "High Arbiter," she said, her voice calm and clear. "I come before this council to request military assistance. The Vorath Dominion has attacked 17 human colonies in the past 2 years. 2 million of our people are dead. Another 300,000 have been taken as slaves." She paused. None of the council members moved. Their faces showed nothing. "We ask for protection," Elena continued. "We ask for justice. We ask that the council enforce its own laws against unprovoked aggression." High Arbiter Thesson leaned forward. He was made of crystal, beautiful, and cold. Light passed through his body and created rainbows on the floor. He had lived for 6,000 years. To him, humanity was like a mayfly that had learned to talk. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said. His voice sounded like glass singing. "The council has heard your request. We have studied your situation, and we must be honest with you." Elena waited. She already knew what was coming. "Humanity is a young species," Thesson said. "You have been in space for less than 300 years. You have no natural weapons, no telepathy, no hive mind, no bioelectric fields. Your bodies are soft. Your lives are short. You come from a planet so dangerous that most species would have died there in a single generation." A few of the council members made sounds that might have been laughter. "The Vorath are predators," Thesson continued. "This is their nature. They hunt the weak. This is not cruelty. It is simply the way of the universe. The strong survive. The weak do not." Elena felt her hands tighten into fists. She forced them to relax. "Are you saying," she said slowly, "that the council will not help us?" "I am saying that nature must take its course." Thesson spread his crystal arms. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years, when humanity has matured, when you have developed real technology and real defenses, the council will reconsider your status. Until then, your species must prove its worth. This is how all great civilizations are tested." The other council members nodded their heads or moved their tentacles or flashed their lights in agreement. Elena stood very still. She looked around the chamber at these ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years. They had forgotten what it meant to struggle. They had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. They looked at humanity and saw only weakness. They did not see the wolf hiding inside the sheep. "I understand," Elena said. Her voice was quiet now. "You will not help us. You will let the Vorath continue to murder our children and burn our worlds. Because we are weak, because we are young, because we are not worth saving." "You speak with emotion," Thesson said. "This is a human weakness. In time you will learn to accept the natural order." "No," Elena said. "We will not." Something in her voice made Thesson pause. For a moment, something very old stirred in his ancient mind. A memory of a time before his species had become peaceful. A memory of what it felt like to face a predator. But the moment passed. He was too old and too wise to feel fear of a human. "Then what will you do, Ambassador?" he asked. "Your ships are slow. Your weapons are primitive. The Vorath have conquered 60 species. What can humanity possibly do alone?" Elena smiled. It was not a warm smile. She spoke a single phrase in English. Her translator device stayed silent. It did not convert her words into the universal language. She had programmed it not to. "Then we will handle it ourselves." She turned and walked out of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. The great doors closed behind her. The council members looked at each other. A few of them made more laughing sounds. Poor humans. So emotional, so dramatic. They would be destroyed within a year. But in the back of the chamber, a young Morvani scholar named Keth Varil did not laugh. He had spent years studying human history. He had read about their wars. He had seen images of their weapons. He had learned about a place called Hiroshima and a day called D-Day and a strategy called Total War. He knew something the council did not. Humans were not sheep pretending to be wolves. They were wolves who had learned to wear sheep's clothing. and the council had just told them to take it off. Kethveril looked at the closed doors where the human ambassador had disappeared. His 4 hearts beat faster. What have we done? He whispered to himself, but no one heard him. The council had already moved on to other matters. Humanity was forgotten. 18 months later, the galaxy would remember, and by then, it would be far too late. The galaxy forgot about humanity. 18 months passed. The Vorath continued their raids. More human colonies burned. The council species made jokes about how long the primitives would last. Some of them even placed bets. Most said humanity would surrender within a year. But something strange was happening. Human ships stopped appearing in the common space lanes. Trade vessels were called back to Earth. Scientific missions ended early. Colonies went dark. Not destroyed, just silent. When alien merchants tried to visit Earth's solar system, they found something impossible. A sensor field surrounded the entire system. It blocked all scans. No one could see what was happening inside. The technology was beyond anything in council records. How did humans build this? The merchants asked each other. No one had an answer. On Earth and Mars, the human race was changing. Every country, every nation, every faction, all the old enemies put their hatred aside. Americans worked beside Russians. Chinese stood shoulder to shoulder with Indians. Europeans and Africans and Australians all joined together. For the first time in human history, the entire species had a single goal: survival. Admiral Marcus Cole stood on the observation deck of the Mars orbital shipyards. He was 62 years old. His hair was gray. His face was covered in scars from wars most people had forgotten. He had been fighting since he was 18. Now he commanded the largest military project humanity had ever attempted. Below him, thousands of workers moved through the massive construction bays. Robots and humans worked side by side, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The sound of welding and hammering never stopped. They were building warships, not peaceful exploration vessels, not science ships, not trading freighters. Warships, pure and simple. Machines designed for one purpose only: destruction. "Admiral," said Commander Sarah Chen, his second in command, "the Council is asking questions. They want to know why we have gone silent." "Let them ask," Cole said. "They will find out soon enough." He looked at the largest construction bay. Inside it, a monster was being born. The UES Defiance, 3 kilometers long, 1 kilometer wide, covered in armor plating 200 meters thick. She carried weapons that would give the Council nightmares. Magnetic accelerator cannons that could fire tungsten slugs at a fraction of the speed of light. Nuclear missiles with enough power to crack a moon. Particle beams that could cut through any shield the aliens had ever built. The Council species had stopped fighting each other 40,000 years ago. They had forgotten what real war looked like. Their weapons were designed for honor duels and ceremonial battles. Clean, precise, limited. Human weapons were different. Humans had never stopped fighting. Every generation had known war. They had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other. Now they would turn that terrible knowledge outward. "The Defiance will be ready in 3 weeks," Commander Chen said. "The rest of the fleet is ahead of schedule. 47 capital ships, 200 support vessels, 1,200 fighter wings." Cole nodded slowly. "And the crews? Trained and ready. They know what is coming. They know what we are asking them to do." "Do they?" Cole turned to face her. "We are asking them to die. Some of them, maybe many of them. We are asking them to become monsters so that humanity can survive." Chen met his eyes. "They understand, sir. We all understand. The Vorath gave us no choice. The Council gave us no choice. We tried peace. We asked for help. They laughed at us." She looked out at the shipyards where humanity's fury was taking shape. "Now they will learn what happens when you corner a human." Cole received a message from Earth that night. Ambassador Vasquez sent him a coded transmission. The Vorath had made an announcement. They were gathering a fleet of 200 warships. They planned to attack Earth directly. They had invited the Council species to watch the final conquest of the human vermin. The message ended with a single question from Elena. "Are we ready?" Cole sat alone in his quarters for a long time. He thought about all the people who would die. He thought about the young pilots who would never go home. He thought about what humanity was about to become. Then he wrote his reply. "Tell the Vorath we are looking forward to meeting them. Tell the Council to watch closely. And tell our people to stand tall." We were born on a death world. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. We crawled out of the mud and reached for the stars. And now the stars will learn what that really means." He paused and added one final line. "The wolves are coming home." On Mars, the construction continued, day and night, week after week, and in the darkness of space, the Vorath fleet began its journey toward Earth. 200 ships filled with warriors who had never lost a battle. They expected easy prey. They would find something very different. The universe was about to remember why humans were so afraid of the dark, because they knew what was hiding in it, themselves. The Vorath fleet entered the Sol system at dawn, 200 warships, each one a kilometer long, black hulls covered in weapons, the largest invasion force the Vorath had ever gathered. At their head flew the flagship of Warlord Kethzar, a commander who had conquered 60 species. He stood on his bridge and looked at the yellow star ahead. Earth's sun. Such a small, ordinary star. Such a weak, pathetic species living around it. "Open a channel to the human homeworld," Kethzar ordered. "I want them to see their death coming." Behind the Vorath fleet, dozens of observation ships from Council species kept a safe distance. They were here to witness history. The final conquest of humanity. The lesson that would teach all young species their place in the galaxy. On the observation deck of one ship, Kethvaril, the Morvani scholar, watched with growing dread. He had spent the last 18 months studying everything he could find about humans. He had read their history, their poetry, their military strategies. He knew something terrible was about to happen. He just did not know what. Warlord Kethzar's transmission reached Earth. His massive face appeared on every screen on the planet. "Humans," he growled. "Your time is over. Surrender now and some of you will be allowed to live as slaves. Resist and you will all die. You have 1 hour to respond." He expected panic. He expected begging. He expected the humans to fall on their knees and cry for mercy. Instead, a single human face appeared on his screen. Ambassador Elena Vasquez. She looked older than before, tired, but her eyes burned with something Kethzar had never seen in prey before. "Warlord," she said. Her voice was calm, cold. "You murdered 2 million of our people. You burned our colonies. You took our children as slaves. And then you left." She leaned forward. "So hear me now. We do not accept your surrender. We do not take prisoners. And we do not forgive. You wanted to teach humanity a lesson. Today, we will teach one to you." Kethzar opened his mouth to respond. He never got the chance. Alarms screamed across every Vorath ship. Sensors went crazy. Warning lights flashed red. "Warlord," his sensor officer shouted. "Contacts appearing. Multiple contacts." "Where?" Kethzar demanded. "Everywhere." Ships began appearing all around the Vorath fleet. They rose from asteroid fields where they had been hiding for months. They emerged from the ice of Jupiter's moons. They powered up from the darkness of the outer system where they had been waiting in silence. Not one ship. Not 10 ships. Hundreds of ships. 47 massive warships. Each one bristling with weapons. 200 support vessels. 1,200 fighter wings, launching like angry hornets. And leading them all, rising from behind Earth's moon like a monster from legend, came the largest ship any alien had ever seen, the UES Defiance, 3 kilometers of steel and fury. Her hull was covered in weapons that made Vorath technology look like toys. She moved with terrible purpose, her engines burning like captured stars. On the observation ships, the Council species watched in stunned silence. This was impossible. Humans were primitives. They did not have this technology. They could not have built this fleet, and yet there it was. Kethvaril whispered to himself. They were not hiding because they were weak. They were hiding because they knew what they would become if they had to fight. On the Defiance, Admiral Cole stood on his bridge. Around him, his crew worked with silent efficiency. They had trained for this moment. They had waited for this moment. Now it was here. "All ships," Cole said into his communicator. "This is Admiral Cole. The enemy is before us. They came to destroy our home. They came to enslave our families. They came because they thought we were weak." He paused. Every human in the fleet was listening. "Show them how wrong they were. All ships. Attack." The human fleet surged forward like a tidal wave. No formation. No ceremony. No warning shots. Just pure, unstoppable aggression. The Vorath had never seen anything like it. Their weapons were designed for civilized warfare. Precise, clean, controlled. They fired carefully targeted shots meant to disable and capture. Human weapons were different. The first volley from the Defiance tore through 6 Vorith ships like they were made of paper. The magnetic accelerator cannons fired building-sized tungsten slugs at 50,000 kilometers per second. They did not just damage ships. They erased them. Nuclear missiles followed. Then particle beams. Then more kinetic rounds. The humans did not fight to wound. They fought to destroy. Warlord Kethzar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 20 of his ships were already gone. Not disabled. Gone. Nothing but expanding clouds of metal and fire. "How is this possible?" he whispered. On the Defiance, Admiral Cole watched the battle unfold. His face was hard as stone. "They called us primitives," he said quietly. "They forgot one thing." Commander Chen looked at him. "Sir?" Cole's eyes reflected the fire of dying ships. "Primitives are the ones who survive." The battle had only just begun, and the stars were watching. The battle lasted 6 hours. It felt like 6 years. The Vorith fleet broke apart under the human assault. They tried to form defensive lines. Human ships smashed through them. They tried to target the command vessels. Human fighters swarmed them like angry insects. They tried to use their superior numbers. It did not matter. The humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. When the UES Valor lost her engines to enemy fire, her captain did not surrender. He turned his crippled ship toward the nearest Vorath carrier and fired his engines one last time. The collision destroyed both vessels. 1,000 human sailors died. 3,000 Vorath died with them. When fighter pilot James Rodriguez ran out of missiles, he did not retreat. He ejected from his cockpit and detonated his fighter's reactor manually. The explosion took out 2 enemy ships. His last words were transmitted to the fleet. "Tell my daughter I love her." When the destroyer UES Fury was surrounded by 5 Vorath warships, her crew voted unanimously to fight to the death. They did. But they took 4 enemy ships with them before the end. On the observation ships, the Council species watched in horror. This was not warfare. This was not combat. This was something older, something darker, something they had forgotten existed. High Arbiter Thesson stood frozen before his viewing screen. His crystal body flickered with colors no one had ever seen before. Fear. Pure fear. "They do not stop," he whispered. "They do not surrender. They do not retreat. What manner of species is this?" Kethvarl answered him. The young Morvani's voice was hollow. "They are humans," he said. "They come from a world where everything tries to kill them. The air, the water, the animals, each other. They have been fighting for survival since the first one stood upright. They do not know how to give up. It is not in their nature." He pointed at the battle. "We thought they were weak because they asked for help. We were wrong. They asked for help because they did not want to become this. They knew what they were capable of. They were trying to protect us from seeing it." On the Defiance, Admiral Cole commanded the battle with cold precision. He felt every death like a knife in his heart. Every ship lost. Every pilot killed. These were his people. His responsibility. But he could not stop. Not now. Not until it was finished. "The Vorath flagship is trying to retreat," Commander Chen reported. "Warlord Kethzar is running." Cole's face did not change. "No survivors. They need to remember." Chen hesitated for only a moment. Then she nodded. "All ships. Intercept the flagship. No one escapes." The human fleet closed in like wolves around a wounded deer. The Vorath flagship fought back. It was the most powerful ship in their fleet. It destroyed 12 human vessels before the end, but there was no escape. The Defiance herself delivered the final blow. 3 Mac rounds hit the flagship in perfect sequence. The first destroyed the shields. The second broke the hull. The third turned Warlord Kethzar and his crew into atoms. Silence fell over the solar system. 200 Vorith ships had entered. None would leave. The human fleet floated among the wreckage. They had won, but the cost was terrible. 23,000 humans were dead. 15 capital ships destroyed. Hundreds of fighters lost. Admiral Cole stood on his bridge and looked at the field of debris that used to be an invasion fleet. He should have felt triumphant. He did not. He felt tired, sad, empty. "Broadcast to all observers," he said quietly. "Tell them this. The battle is over. The Vorath are defeated. Any species that attacks humanity in the future will meet the same fate. This is not a threat. This is a promise." He paused. "And tell the Council we will see them soon." The transmission ended. The alien observers fled back to their homeworlds as fast as their ships could carry them. They had come to watch primitives die. Instead, they had witnessed the birth of something new, something terrifying. On his ship, Keth Verrill stayed behind. He watched the human fleet begin rescue operations. They were pulling survivors from damaged ships, treating the wounded, honoring the dead. Even now, after all the killing, they showed mercy to their own. "They are not monsters," Keth Verrill said to himself. "They are just very, very good at becoming monsters when they have to be." He understood now why they had hidden, why they had asked for help first, why they had begged the Council for peace. Because humans knew the truth about themselves. They were the deadliest species the galaxy had ever produced, and they were terrified of what they could become. Today, the galaxy had forced them to become it anyway. Keth Verrill wondered if the universe would ever be the same. Deep in his heart, he knew the answer. It would not. 1 week later, Ambassador Elena Vasquez returned to the Galactic Council. The chamber was the same. The crystal walls still glowed with ancient light. The 12 seats still floated in their perfect circle. But everything had changed. The arrogance was gone. The amusement was gone. The contempt that had filled those ancient eyes was gone. In its place was fear. Elena walked to the speaking platform. She did not bow. She did not ask for permission to speak. She simply stood there and waited until every eye was on her. "High Arbiter," she said. "Council members, I have come to discuss the future relationship between humanity and the Galactic Council." Thesson leaned forward. His crystal body was dim. He looked older than before, fragile. The last week had aged him more than 1,000 years. "Ambassador," he said. His voice cracked like breaking glass. "The Council wishes to express its regret for the events that save it." Elena's voice cut through his words like a blade. "You had your chance to help us. You chose to let our people die. You called it natural selection. You said we needed to prove our worth." She smiled coldly. "Consider it proven." The Council members shifted in their seats. Some of them could not meet her eyes. "Here are our terms," Elena continued. "First, humanity will have full membership in the Galactic Council. Not probationary, full, with all rights and privileges." Thesson nodded quickly. "Of course, we would be honored to." "Second," Elena interrupted, "all human colonies will be recognized as sovereign territory. Any species that enters human space without permission will be considered hostile." "Yes, naturally." "This is third. The Vorath Dominion will answer for their crimes. We will hold a tribunal. They will face human justice. Not council justice. Human justice." Thesson's light flickered. "The Vorath, what remains of them, will not accept. They do not have a choice." Elena's voice was ice. "Neither do you." Silence filled the chamber. The council members looked at each other. They were ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years. They had never been spoken to like this, but they had also never been this afraid. Finally, Thesson asked the question that burned in every alien mind. "How?" His voice was barely a whisper. "You were in space for less than 300 years. You were supposed to be primitives. How did you build that fleet? How did you defeat the Vorath so completely? How is any of this possible?" Elena looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm. "You want to know our secret? Here it is. We did not start from nothing. We have been preparing for war since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if something was looking back." She began to walk slowly around the platform. "You saw primitives. We saw potential enemies. You stopped evolving because you had no predators. We never stopped. On Earth, we were always both predator and prey. The 18 months you gave us, that was not us learning to build weapons. That was us deciding to stop hiding what we had already built." The council members stared at her in shock. "You thought we were weak because we asked for help?" Elena said. "You were wrong. We asked for help because we knew what we would have to become if we had to fight alone. We were trying to give peace a chance. We were trying to be better than our nature." She stopped walking and faced Thesson directly. "You took that choice away from us. So be grateful. Be grateful we asked for help first. Be grateful we tried diplomacy, because the next species that mistakes human kindness for weakness will not get a second chance to learn the difference. The vote was unanimous. Every term was accepted. No one argued. No one debated. The council had learned its lesson. As Elena walked out of the chamber, Kethveril was waiting for her in the corridor. The young Morvani stepped forward nervously. "Ambassador," he said, "I must ask, does humanity truly want peace? Or is this just domination with a different name? Will you become what the Vorath were?" Elena stopped. She looked at the young scholar with tired eyes. "We want what we have always wanted," she said softly. "To explore, to grow, to reach for something greater, to find our place among the stars. We did not want to become this. We did not want to be the monsters in the dark." She looked out the window at the stars. "But we learned a long time ago that the universe does not care what you want. It only respects what you are willing to fight for. So we will be the nightmare that keeps the peace. We will be the wolves that guard the sheep. And maybe, someday, when the galaxy grows up enough to understand, we can finally put down our swords." She turned back to Kethveril. "Until then, we will watch, we will wait, and we will be ready. Because that is what humans do. That is what we have always done." She walked away. Her footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. Kethveril watched her go. Then he looked out the window at the blackness of space. Somewhere out there, the human fleet was still holding position. Hundreds of ships, thousands of weapons, the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. They were not conquering. They were not attacking. They were simply waiting. A silent promise, a quiet warning. The stars watched them. And for the first time in 40,000 years, the stars were afraid. But Kethveril realized something else. Something that gave him hope. The humans were afraid too. Afraid of themselves. Afraid of what they could become. Afraid of losing the kindness that made them human in the first place. And any species that feared its own power was a species that might, just might, learn to use it wisely. The galaxy would never be the same. The old order was finished. A new age was beginning. And humanity, for better or worse, would lead the way. The wolf had come out of hiding, and the stars would never forget.